Yes. Here we are again. I'm just going to speak a little bit about Dad. So everybody that listens to this has a dad. Everybody has a dad. And that's the way it is. And what I've been doing the last months, actually several years, well, maybe 15 years in a way, it has been focusing on working with men who are dads in recovery. And I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men who are dads in recovery. And so much of the story is about their experience with their dad. And often it's unbelievable how we become our fathers and unconsciously. I've got story after story, but I'll tell you one quick one. I was talking to a fellow the other day, and I said, "Tell me about how your relationship with your dad," because we were actually doing some fifth step work, and Dad wasn't even on the fifth step. He wasn't even there. And I said, "Well, why isn't he there?" "Oh, well, because he was such a great dad, and I didn't have any." Bullshit. Tell me about him. And as it turns out, the man he was calling his dad was not his dad. The truth is, his dad didn't show up, and he was adopted. And, and he just went right by that. Where did that sit with him? And then, what was the story of his birth dad? He knew who his birth dad was, and he talked about that, and it came out that, his birth dad had struggles and maybe some jail time and struggles with women and all of that. And much like he himself was experiencing, and struggles around his own kids and it went on. So we see that. So we have to look at it. And this is what I'm doing a lot with men. We want to break the chain. Men want to break the fucking chain. We want to break the chain of this thing that seems to get passed down from generation to generation. And my goal is to help men to do that, to be there more realistically for their kids, to make good with exactly where we're at right now, and sometimes as dads, we've got such a picture of perfection and that we run away. We think, "Oh, I can never be the dad that I want to be, so I'm not going to be or do anything." And it hurts too. There's emotional hurt that comes, because raising children is not easy work. It's not, and we're emotionally, many of us, not very mature. And here we are, men, whatever that is, and many of us very immature. We first sober up, but it takes years to grow up and be the man, that we want to be with our kids. And so to me, it doesn't matter where you're at in the deal. You can show up in a better way, with your dad. My dad, and I think this is important. First, a couple of things to qualify myself. I have 3 kids, right? And, one of the greatest fears that many of us have had with our children, is that they would become addicts and alcoholics like us. And lo and behold, the apple didn't fall that far from the tree in my particular case, and that's what happened. And I'm so blessed because I have 2 kids in recovery, and my third guy doesn't seem to have the spiritual malady, and it's funny that the love from a father can make such a difference. It really can. And caring from a father and concern from a father. So, every man that I know wants to do this, but reasons come up. They say, "Well, I can't because I can't. I've got to do this first, or I've got to do that first." And I'll tell you what, just a phone call. If your kids are adult kids, just a regular call. If your kids are children, just a regular call, like a regular call. Get that organized, whatever you have to do. Kids need to know that dad loves them. If you're not there, the assumption is, of course, that it has something to do with them. Kids are very self-centered, And if dad isn't there, it takes a long time, and a lot of work for us to see that it wasn't about us, and that there isn't really anything to forgive. If dad had his stuff like I did and my father did, my dad, I was going to tell you about him a little bit. I was number 4 out of 5, and dad wasn't as available when I came along, and it was a crazy house for sure. My oldest brother was 9 years older than me, and in some ways he took the role, and because my dad wasn't that available, and I guess that works, and it did to a certain degree. I mean, he certainly, without him, I wouldn't have gotten sober and followed his example into recovery and all of that. And we've been buddies, ever since. He's still alive, and he has 5 kids, 5 boys, and has had to do his work around, rekindling and rebuilding those relationships. And we've worked on that together. And every man that I get to work with, I grow and I see the importance of this. Like dads, like really, this is no reflection on mums. Mums are super important too, but men have got to show up, and I'm here to help with that. You don't know what you don't know, and so let's talk about it. I'm doing a call every Tuesday. Be on the friggin' call. Take a little time to focus on this a bit. So I'm on a call every Tuesday. It's a Zoom call. You're welcome to come and be part of that. And we can do some one-on-one stuff. You want to talk about your relationship with your kids? Let's do that. All right. And I guess that's it for now. I've got, lots of times I have lots to say, and then when I get here, it's gone.